Hey, you're listening to the Timmy Riggs podcast, Life in the Meantime. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about making sure that you're just not coasting through life, right? I think, like I've said before, in the meantime means that it's the place between from A to B, right? But that's where life is lived. It's on that journey. And so I think we get to decide how we live it. And I don't think we just have to coast through it. I think that it's really easy to put life on cruise control, whether that's work, our family time, our diet, our health, our exercising, our maybe most important one, which kind of encompasses everything, our interactions with people. It's so easy for us to just put it on autopilot, right? But I don't think that's how we were designed. I believe that we have way too much potential for just coasting through life. And I think a lot of it comes down to the kind of energy that we bring into spaces and places. Not just mean kind of what you're putting off, your attitude, how you're handling situations, how you're walking through circumstances, what kind of demeanor you step into each room, each meeting, each conversation with. And so I think that is a big part of making sure that we don't just coast through it, right? And so ultimately that comes down to really how intentional we are for the day. Now, I am a high energy person. I just am kind of always beating at a high drum, right? And my wife and I, we're completely different. I'm anywhere between 90 to 120 miles an hour. Emma, she is a consistent 45 miles an hour all the time. That's how she lives life. So I want to just share that this is for everybody. This isn't just me saying, you need to have a lot of energy. You need to come into a room, make everyone know that you're there. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I think that you just need to live into the strength of whatever kind of energy that you put out there, right? Maybe you walk into a room, you talk to one person for a long time, but it's really meaningful. Or maybe you go in there and you see a lot of different people quickly and you can still make it meaningful, right? There's all types of different ways. But basically, I'm just trying to get us to a place of making sure that we're focused. We know how we're going to spend the energy that we have that day in those moments, right? I think there's so many times where maybe you're like me and you have a day where you just kind of roll out of bed. You get the coffee made, you start getting the kids ready, you eat a quick breakfast, you pull your clothes out of the clean laundry that's on the floor next to the dirty one, so you actually have to do a quick sniff test of the pits to make sure that that is, in fact, a clean shirt. You throw it on, you realize it's backwards, you have to switch it, get it on the right way, you start sprinting out the door, and you realize the coffee that you haven't even taken a sip yet is already cold. You throw it in the microwave for a quick 15 seconds, put it in some kind of cup that you can put in the car, and you start driving, right? So you're already feeling a little bit rushed. Maybe you're late, probably breaking the law because now you're speeding, and you're going to get to work, and you're going to go in with that same type of energy. You have already basically, I don't want to say lost the day. I don't want to sound like over dramatic, but you have created a type of mindset or even set your energy for the day, your pace, to kind of be a little frantic, to be a little bit behind. Now, again, that happens from time to time, and that's not a big deal. But if that's where you live every day, eventually your life's going to feel a little chaotic, a little restless, and not feeling like, man, I'm not where I want to be or who I'd hope to be or how I'm interacting with people, right? And so we have to figure out how to kind of make that right. Now, there's all types of hacks and habits out there that people will give you, and I think a lot of that's fine. But today, I want to share more of just kind of, maybe it's a principle or just an ideal of how you can begin to shape your life differently. I believe that we live this one life. This is it. This is my one go at it. It's not a practice round. This is the main production. Now, I do ultimately believe that God is redeeming and will redeem this one life in one way or another. But right now, while I'm on earth, this is it. This is the go that I have the next 70 to 90 to maybe 100 years, right? And so if I stay healthy and nothing bad happens, so I want to make sure that I'm living it in a way, well, that's worth it and is intentional. Recently at my church, my pastor has been leading us through a series where we don't want to be the type of people who are just surviving through life, but rather living into who we were created to be, people that thrive. And I couldn't agree more. So what does some of that look like practically? And I'll just try to give some quick thoughts about this. I think the simple answer is you get to decide where you place your energy and your focus. You get to decide that, right? No one else has that decision. You're the only one up here operating your mindset and how you're going to spend the amount of energy that you have on that day. And I think it starts with transforming your mind. So I don't want that to be like, oh my goodness, this is, either old language or it's out there language or anything. But Paul, the writer of a big chunk of the New Testament, says, do not conform to the patterns of this world. Basically, don't just get in line, whatever it is, right? Don't just coast through is what Paul is saying. Instead, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Jesus points a lot of times to the fact that this day is what matters, not tomorrow and not yesterday. I love how Billy Graham said it. He said, today, after all, is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Let that sink in. Today, after all, is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. How often do we waste the day that we're given, the opportunity of today, with thinking about, oh my goodness, I have this tomorrow, I have this next thing next week, or maybe it's even, man, I can't believe I did that last week, or you're stuck thinking about the past. How often do we maybe squander the day that we have been given? So how often should we renew our mind? Well, I think that if today is the day that matters, then ultimately every day we should be renewing our mind. And I think that you could have a time each day, maybe it's in the shower, during some quiet time, or on a car ride to work, where you make the decision of being like, this is how I'm going to think and how I'm going to operate today. And again, there's so many ways to do that, but I'm not focusing on specific practices or habits necessarily, just more of just getting into the mindset of thinking, hey, today's the day I got. How do I want to spend my energy? So where do we spend our energy? Here's where not to spend it. Just classic. Here's 3 perfect examples on where not to spend your energy. And if you just started doing these things or leaving these 3 things out of your life, I'm pretty sure you're going to get better. You're going to find that you'll probably have a lot of leftover energy to use and refocus it and do better. So I've never heard anyone say, well, Timmy, my life got so full the minute I started complaining all the time. No, never heard anyone say that. Or, I have so much genuine joy because I talk negatively about people all the time. Nope, haven't heard anyone say that. Or the last one, and this is pretty relative right now. Man, ever since I have the news going 24/7 in my house, I have felt such an incredible amount of peace. No, never one time has anyone ever said that in the history of life, right? Because those things are not fulfilling and meaningful places to spend your energy. Really, all 3 of those things in some type of way are going to leave me feeling worse. And I'm going to be like, man, I wish I wouldn't have said that about that person. Or, man, I wish I just wasn't complaining so much. That's not making me happy. Or definitely anytime I have the news on, I just don't feel better. Rather, I think each day, we should begin to focus on how we spend our energy. Here's an easy one, towards others. So that's just an easy, quick way to think of how am I spending my energy towards others. Every time you enter a room, think to yourself, how do I want others to feel with me in this space? It's so easy to just kind of go into a space and just kind of be like, here I am, I'm going to do the same things that I always do. But instead, what if you were like, no, today I want to make sure that everyone that I interact with in a meeting or maybe at the store or at an event or whatever it is, I want to make sure they feel encouraged, inspired, peaceful, loved, and cared for. How do you want to spend your energy, maybe even at work, right? Do you want to just make sure that you're just dotting the I's, crossing the T's? Or do you want to try to make sure, hey, the things that really matter, I'm going to give my best to. And I want to feel good about the work that I did today. I want to hang my hat on that and think, how would the best version of me handle this situation? One of the simplest pieces of advice I've heard from Andy Stanley when he talks about leadership, he's saying when you're having to face a situation where you have to apply some leadership muscles, he says, ask yourself, what would a great leader do? What would a great leader do? Sounds so basic, but it really gets you thinking, right? So in these kind of circumstances, hey, how would me at my best, intentional, focused energy, how would I interact with people in this room? How would I handle this deadline? How would I make sure I get this done the way that I'd want to? I just think those are good questions to ask ourselves every time we enter a door frame or pick somebody up or take someone to lunch or whatever it is, right? Just because the impact we're going to have on them when we are giving our best energy is going to be probably even more than any kind of thing we could say, or definitely way more than if we're complaining or seeming negative or whatever. I want to make sure that I take the things off that weigh me down through the day. I want to live freer and lighter, and I think that some of the ways that we can begin to do that is making sure that we truly are focused on how we're spending our energy for the day. And don't get me wrong, I don't think life is always easy and that we'll never have problems. But I do believe that often we create problems and make life harder for ourselves. So in that, how can I make sure that, hey, here's a real problem, I'm gonna face it, and I'm gonna bring my best energy towards it, not, hey, here's a slight situation, I'm gonna make a bigger problem of it by complaining, being negative, whatever, right? And so instead, how can I make sure that I'm not adding problems and I'm taking them away? And I've said it so many times, and I think that, again, this comes down to focusing our energy, how we want to interact with people, how we want them to feel when they interact with us. And I've said it a lot. I want to light up the room when I walk into it, not when I walk out. I don't want people cheering and be excited when I leave, right? That's not a good sign, okay? So I would rather be someone that, even if I'm a type of person who comes in and I'm quiet and I'm gentle, that still my presence is going to make people feel more calm and more encouraged and more loved, and not like, oh my goodness, here comes Eeyore, right? No, I don't want to be that person. So today I just wanted to do a quick episode making sure we realign our energy. It's completely free. You don't have to put a lot of investment into this other than just the way that you think about life. And I think that before long, you'll begin to see that maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months down the road, that some opportunities come up, right? Maybe you're just someone who's like, man, I wish I got invited to more hangouts with friends. Well, maybe if you start refocusing your energy, they're going to be like, hey, you seem happier and more excited and enjoying the day more. So we would love for you to be around us, right? I just think that that is a big part of how we make sure that we're not just coasting through life. We set the intention of how we want to spend our energy throughout the day. No one ever drifts into a better future for themselves. No matter whether it's your faith, your health, your relationships, your career, we have to be intentional about it. We have to think through it. And we have to decide what kind of energy we bring into those things. So that's all today. And again, it's more than anything, just a reminder to think about how you're spending the energy you're putting out there. You have to go and be involved in all those things anyway. So why not try to remind yourself before each one of them to bring your best self to it, right? So if this encouraged you, let me know. I love hearing your positive feedback, and you can share it with a friend. And I hope you have a great day and you're living life well in the meantime.